You know, I have nothing against truly seeker-friendly churches. Truly seeker-friendly churches. But what does seeker-friendly really mean? It started off as a sales technique. Okay, you remember that pastor who committed suicide. I can't get off of this because the media's portrayal of this, first of all, it's none of our darn business. It really isn't our darn business. Like so many things the fake news covers are none of our business. The media, the fake news, and this is why it's fake news, like that Jim Acosta badgering our lovely press secretary, offers to bake the press a pie. What a sweetheart. And they throw it in her face. Maybe they've gotten over the pie gate part 2. Anyway, Jim Acosta walked into that meeting with a preconceived agenda. I didn't want to do a video today, but it's just one of those things. It's like God's telling you gotta tell the people something. And anyway, so here we are. We're gonna make this really quick. Bring you some Christmas cheer amid the hubbub of your life and mine. But where were we? Oh, seeker-friendly churches. So this is another instance. This is a teachable moment in the progression or the regression of the technological show of fake church, fake news, as I've mentioned before, and the whole ethos of the way that Christianity looks on television. This is a still from the Bible series on History Channel. Well-meaning people, but of course, when they portrayed the biblical historical account of Sodom and Gomorrah, in which God destroyed 2 cities because they succumbed to the evil, one that God does hate more than many others, I'm fully convinced. God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah because of sodomy, which is where we get the word sodomy. And it doesn't matter, heterosexual sodomy, homosexual sodomy, it's all bad. It's not good. And this is why we love the good Judge Roy Moore, because he's demonstrated commitment time and time again, just standing for the biblical virtues of right and wrong, that every other pastor is a coward to address today, sadly. And that's why we're here. Thank God for the free internet. We're talking about it here, and we're talking about the pastor who committed suicide. Not because we want to, but because the fake news has thrown it in the faces of good Christian people of faith, good Christian Americans of faith, people that want to make America great again, as our good leader, POTUS, does, President Donald Trump. And we've got this seeker-friendly or emergent church phenomenon, like that cult in Los Angeles, which will remain nameless in this video, which again puts on a show, puts on a rock concert, a head throbbing, repetitive trance beat that basically anesthetizes the brain of the audience before planting seeds of pagan idolatry in their minds. I'm fully convinced that there are no real churches in Hollywood. I have been there, and I didn't find it. I went to one church of the more Episcopalian vein while I was there, and evidently it was they called it a Catholic, I believe, leaning Episcopalian church just down the street from the mega cult. And they said that the director, producer, the brain behind Mrs. Doubtfire had been one of their prominent congregants. This is what they value: transsexuals masquerading in kind of pseudo family movies. Anyhow, but this is where we get the seeker-friendly church. It does not come out of the Bible. It comes out of comes out of the effects, the implicit, invisible effects of trying to mold a church of God to meet the expectations, the preconceived expectations of a hyper-industrialized, first time I've ever used that word, I don't even know if it exists, but we'll call it a hyper-industrialized, I'd say a technocratic, a highly technocratic, a super technocratic kind of people. Book Amusing Ourselves to Death, Neil Postman, is kind of a prerequisite for understanding this, so I do apologize if I'm using jargon that's unfamiliar to you. Again, Amusing Ourselves to Death by Neil Postman will make this a lot clearer. But the idea here is that re-examining this idea of the seeker-friendly church. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened. Fine. Great. And in fact, that's the gospel, and so I don't intend to belittle that at all. However, I guess what I'm saying here is that the so-called seeker-friendly churches are not really seeker-friendly churches. What they're doing is they're using technological tricks, marketing techniques, which are designed to appeal to not only appeal to, but to perpetuate the preconceived notions that come with a society that's overly saturated with media exposure. Just like even this video, if we're not careful. Excuse me, and so the seeker-friendly church, and again, I'm sorry if this is a little bit complicated. We do need to we're unpacking big issues in these videos, and so you need to stay with me just a little bit because this is it's a very loaded term, and one that I ultimately, and if you need evidence of that, the phrase seeker-friendly, it's a euphemism, okay, because everybody knows that, and it was developed to explain away the uncomfortable feeling you get when you walk into a church like that trance-inducing kind of beat fetishism, as one comedian who grew up not too far away from me called it. I mean, first of all, beat fetishism is a mockery of art. When you apply it to church, it's even that much worse because you're implying that somehow it's sacred, and so you're really misleading people. Like the cult on Hollywood Boulevard in Los Angeles that says it's a Christian church, down the street from the cult of Scientology. They're all cults. They're all one and the same. They all mess with your mind, and they keep you in a prolonged state of spiritual lethargy, and that's not what God designed. That's not faith. That's let us entertain you and keep you in that state of entertainment. And not only that, they don't like real Christian people. They have like real Christian maturity, real Bible study. The seeker-friendly church doesn't like that. They find that threatening. They find the real, authentic gospel threatening because they're more concerned with offending the seeker who has been inundated, who has drowned him or herself in television church, in television, or just in television period. And pop culture. They're more offended with offending. They're more offended at the thought of offending pop culture notions of morality than they are about offending God Himself, which is a roundabout way of saying in a straight and more biblical way, because we're all about straight here. We're all about straight here. That they're more concerned about pleasing man more than God. That's what seeker-friendly really means. And those who are truly seekers are going to are not going to be offended. If they're really seeking God, they're really seeking the gospel of Christ, and not a fancy show or female worship leaders. They call them worship leaders, and yet they say that they're not leading men in worship, or they're not exercising spiritual authority of men over worship. Even the Calvinist More conservative American Presbyterian kinds of churches, PCA, they'll have female worship leaders, and they'll say at the same time, oh, they're not really leading worship. Again, this is a little theological. I'm sorry if you're not familiar with the theological. I'm not sorry. I'm just saying this has a bit of a learning curve, because I'm not seeker friendly. Seeker friendly. I mean I'm seeker friendly for real. I'm not seeker friendly. If you catch my drift, follow my lead there. So if seeker friendly churches are not really seeker friendly, if they're not really seeker friendly, then what are they? Well, if the modern seeker friendly modern worship experience, I have to refer you, I have to credit a very good pastor from Salem Bible Church in New Hampshire, Pastor Jim Delaney, because he delivered an excellent sermon one time in which he recounted the story of the Israelites worshiping the golden calf. And I wanted to call it a golden cow at one point, but it's a golden calf. It's another kind of secular thing. Anyhow, the Israelites worshiping the golden calf while Moses is away taking orders directly from God in the Ten Commandments. If you recall from the fake Hollywood account of the of the historical occasion, and excuse me, so sorry. Time is of the essence, so we're getting to Christmas. So let's prepare our hearts by getting to the heart of this issue of the seeker-friendly church. Stay with me, First Church of Gab, which is not really a church, because I'm accountable to God, and so I have to tell you this isn't really a church. Church is what you go to. It's a place that you are, and we're not. This is this right here. Again, I try to take advantage of every teachable moment possible. This here is not really this. I'm not really here. I'm not really talking to you. I don't know you. You don't go to church with me. I don't go to church with you. It's a nice kind of fantasy or illusion, but that's all it is, an illusion. I'm only using it to prove a point here because chances are, if you're watching this, you don't read many books. Otherwise, you'd realize that this is a waste of your time. Anyhow, and you would have developed these conclusions on your own. So I'm really speaking to those of you who watch YouTube videos or watch, I'm sorry I haven't mentioned it, PewTube videos or Gab videos. We're talking about the seeker-friendly church, the seeker-friendly church, which isn't really seeker-friendly. What's it friendly to? Who are they really going after? Because seeker-friendly is a euphemism. What does it mean? It means that, it's really an apology, like all really weak, inherently weak spiritually people do. Obama's apology tour, and by the way, may all of your Obamas fade into the pure what of Christmas this Christmas season. All of your Baracks, may they dissolve away. And that is my Christmas wish and prayer and hope for you. Very real hope, grounded in God. But again, I digress for the benefit of millennials, because I am a millennial, and I'm a recovering millennial. Okay? So, anyway, thank you. We're talking about the seeker-friendly church, and as promised, I am going to reveal to you what the seeker-friendly church, again, seeker is a euphemism, just like gay is a euphemism for homosexuality, and passed away is a euphemism for died, okay? Because homosexuality is death. The seeker-friendly church, as if we look at the way that the church has modeled itself after our Kurt Cobain? I only know about this because Joshua Harris mentioned it in his wonderful book. I can't think of the name of it offhand. You know what I'm talking about. And we've built a church that's built around and that sustains the notion Because remember, Jesus told his disciples, okay, listen to what the Pharisees say, but don't do as they do. Pastors who are in this country have built a church, a tithe-hungry church, and not a holiness-hungry church, but a money-hungry church, serving mammon rather than God, have built a church that's built upon this notion of seeker-friendliness. The new evangelism, I've watched it in the seeker-friendly, again, even the most conservative PCA church, the whole, claiming to be conservative, not one cross in the whole sanctuary, because it will offend somebody. And I should have a cross here. I do apologize for not having a cross, not having there's no nativity scene here. You know that, and that's my fault. I do that's I take ownership for that, and I'm going to try to fix that in time for the next video. Wasn't really planning on this, so bear with me. Seeker-friendly churches. Seeker-friendly churches. So, to really kind of understand who they're really targeting, you need to understand that the church has remade itself, not in God's image, not in the image of the Bible, but in the image of what pastors, what congregants are doing for the all the other hours in a week. I can't do the math that quickly, even though I'm an MBA guy, right? Should be able to. But besides that 1 hour in a week you spend in church, you have all that other time during the week. What are they doing? They're watching television, like the average fake news sponge of an American, sitting on the couch and just absorbing all of this negativity because they don't know any better. They think it's real. This you put something on television, it looks as real as it does in your living room. And I am going to try to close this up soon because I don't want to dwell on those evils too long as we reveal what the seeker-friendly church is really seeking after. Long story short, and please check out that book. Again, it will make it a lot clearer in depth that I can't go into here. Amusing Ourselves to Death by Neil Postman, 1985. Very good year for art and politics, faith, everything else. Churches have sought to capture audiences the same way that the fake news does. A lot of sensationalism, suddenly the testimony. And I'm not going to mention his name because he really wants more of God, and I know he does. But new people that come into, I've seen this a number of times. This is a pattern I've discovered in my study, my formal and informal study of the church in America. The testimony of the believer has become more important than come on, I know you know it, than the gospel of Jesus Christ. The Bible, right? It's not about our testimony. It doesn't matter how it does. It matters. It kind of matters in that it gives it credibility. But the point is that Jesus died to save us from our sins. Not that I started this church and I was a really cool guy, and so I was able to captivate an audience, and that's the story of how I built this empire, this Crystal Cathedral. Nothing against the Crystal Cathedral. Or in the case of my friend, the pastor, I'm not going to mention his name, fella, tells all the new congregants, the first thing he tells them, spends a good hour or two on it, after giving them a story of how he fell off his chair while he was drunk and suffered a brain injury that the doctors said would never something or other, and he came back miraculously and credited God for the whole thing. Well, wonderful, but you're going to spend all that time. That's how you introduce people to your church. That's what they're going to remember. It's about a pastor who fell off the porch while getting stoned and inebriated with illegal drugs, and something to Jesus Christ. No, that's not the way you do it. And this is seeker-friendly. This is how the seeker-friendly church operates. In the case of that cult in Los Angeles, I'm an artist and release the artist within you. And I say that as one who produces art. who's the art really about? I mean, why are you really doing this? Are you letting the feelings lead you, or are you letting good, solid, biblical goodness, godliness lead what you're saying? Is the message coming from Peter Vidala here in this video? Is it coming from the device that we are interacting on right now? Because we're really not, and this is not really church. Support your local church by being there. Or is this coming from God? Is this message of God? Am I in the way? Is the technology in the way? And of course, my suggestion and my emphatic statement to you is, without fear of error, yes, the technology is getting in the way of the gospel already. It is. It's getting in the way of the gospel. Got to have the light show. Got to have the light show. Oh, it was so important. So many churches. Geez, we gotta have the. We gotta have the. Do we have? The concern isn't. Well, gee, is this an accurate message, or what effect are all these flashing lights going to have on the gospel of Jesus Christ? It's accuracy. No, we have to make sure. We have to make sure all the volunteers are in places. I swear to you, that cult in Los Angeles claiming to be Christian, first of all, they have a pagan core theology. You won't find it on its website. I've written about it on some of my LinkedIn pages. But they literally, just like a bloody Billy Joel concert, they stick a whole bunch of young-looking people. They actually asked me, they said, Pete, can you sit up front? So that way on the cameras it looks like the place is full for the webcast. This is the cult in Los Angeles. I kid you not. True story. The cult in Los Angeles... the cult in Los Angeles, they said, look, we need, could you go sit up in the front, because we need good-looking, attractive people like you to make it look like this place is still, kind of what's going on here in Hollywood. I did, because I didn't really think about it too much, and I thought I'd oblige them, and But again, it's this whole, we need a production. We got to set up we got to make it's really not it's not a new sin in the church. The gospel blimp, it's the gospel blimp all over again. Classic Christian film, highly recommend it. I can't recommend it enough. I respect that film because it's using a technological medium of the film to debunk the film, the art. Maybe even if they didn't realize that's what they were doing, using technology, just like I'm attempting to do now. And remember, this is not real. This is not real fellowship. I'm not your pastor. I'm not a pastor. I'm trying to. The number one goal that I have. Google said it. They didn't really mean it. I really mean it. My number one goal is to get you off of this device, because this device is hurting you. If I could show you the bite and the apple on this particular device I'm recording this on, I would. But isn't that the way Satan works? That when you're actually engaged, read operantly conditioned, as you are now, and that's why you're watching this video. I didn't bring you here. I mean, I didn't put you on this. Maybe God brought you to this particular video, but ideal situation, this wouldn't exist. And that's why we respect the Amish. They believe in it. Anyhow, again, lots of digressions here, but we're trying to get to some really deep issues, and sometimes it helps to take a little mini vacation every once in a while, even if it's a tangent, because we're really what I'm attempting to do is deprogram you, because you've been programmed, and that's why you're here. Everybody it's a cult of television that we've subscribed to as Americans. Donald Trump's a big part of it. He's like a cult leader. He's one of the better ones, and see, now I have to explain that now. So we're all brainwashed to watch television, okay? And Donald Trump represents truth, but in order for God to in order for God to bring us back to godly principles, the only kind of president suited for the job is one who can beat the media at their own game. When Donald Trump calls out the media, he's morally justified in doing so because, excuse me, once again, even if he doesn't, whether he completely understand, God is using him, and that's all that matters. But he's calling, like, if you understand how evil the fake news is, fake news doesn't understand how evil they are, and no evil person really does. Like that bank robber, he thinks in his mind he's doing a public good by robbing the bank. Okay. He's not thinking, well, gee, I'm an awful person, I shouldn't be doing it. I mean, he's fully convinced this is the right thing for him to do. And the fake news thinks it's the right thing to subvert the American people and to squander all the blessings God's given us and to attack good and moral people like the good judge Roy Moore down in Alabama. The fake news. So again, we're developing this, and I didn't want to go this kind of in depth, but I want to fill you in because I want you to know I'm not blowing smoke, and I understand what I'm talking about here. Donald Trump has beat the media at their own game. For a generation of people who are brainwashed, like you and even myself to some extent have been by the ubiquitous, invisible kind of technological influence in our lives. Because you never see that bitten apple while you're engaged in the device. You only see it when you're not using it. Remember that, because that's important. That's an important concept. The symbol of man's evil is what's bringing you the device, managed by the homosexual sodomite Tim Cook, of course. It doesn't get clearer than that. These folks don't allow their children to have devices. At least I've heard Steve Jobs didn't, and a lot of the bigwigs in Silicon Valley, even the ones who are leftists, they won't, because they know how bad it is for people. And we have the chair of Facebook, or former leadership at Facebook, coming out against the technological giants and that evil that awful person, Mark Zuckerberg, who hates people. Think about it. The legacy of technology, this medium that we're not conversing on right now, it came into its own with the brainchild, the bad fruits of a bad apple who came out of this Boston wrong, where I'm coming to you from right now, the hub of the universe. Again, sorry about the preposition there. And he is, basically it came out of depraved and people-hating mind. People who love God love people. And Mark Zuckerberg doesn't love people. He doesn't love people. He loves... I don't know what he loved. I don't know if he loved himself, he wouldn't be doing this. So it's just like the bank robber. They don't know that they're doing the wrong thing, but he brought this curse upon America, whereby we confuse this with what you really want, which is real fellowship at a real local church, and technology deludes the mind in more ways than even I'm sure I know right now. And this is kind of the basis of knowledge. So Donald Trump, again, if he's not a cult leader any more than any of us who even. If I'm to be completely frank, even we social media personas are, I can't even call us personalities because, again, I'm not really here. You're not really in my presence, and I'm not really in yours. And so this is just an illusion. It's an illusion. It's not real. And you want real faith. You don't want you don't want Sodom and Gomorrah, but Sodom and Gomorrah is what you get when you subscribe to the fake news media, and that's what our church is doing. Our church is worshiping at the altar of Baal, at the altar of the golden calf. That sermon I was telling you about by Pastor Jim Delaney from Salem Bible Church in Salem, New Hampshire. Wonderful, wonderful message in which he's not, I admire that he doesn't spend a lot of time in subscribing to videos like this. A lot of pastors don't. The very best, even on the congregational side, the Puritan Evangelical Church in San Diego, right near that dangerous Mexican border, national city. Pastors, real pastors, they don't have time for television games, and the real believers don't. But he got it to the he understands the fake news to the extent that he needs to, in that he recognizes immediately the contemporary worship service, where you have that beat fetishism going on, like that cult on Los Angeles Boulevard. Hollywood Boulevard, in Hollywood, Los Angeles. This beat fetishism, he recognized it as the contemporary worship service for the seeker-friendly audience. All these vague marketing terms. Our God is a God of order, and he doesn't need to hide behind marketing terms. We don't need better marketers. We need people of character in the pulpit. We don't need orators. We need people who live and are afraid of God. Fear God more than man. That's the beginning of wisdom, is what the Bible tells us. Not this cult leader on Hollywood Boulevard who claims to be wiser than Solomon, and he's not. He really isn't. Maybe in Hollywood no, he isn't. So the seeker-friendly church, what is it really? Well, we've already established that churches are following in the footsteps of technology, trying to recruit people with a rock song and I'm a friend. It's very true too, though. I'm not saying the lyrics aren't true, but again, it's not necessarily about what you're saying, but like the fake news, the way you say it. I am a friend of God. Hey, hallelujah! I am a friend of God. You know how it goes. And when we are, and honestly, I think it's kind of a cool song. It just doesn't. I don't know if it belongs in church because it has a numbing effect, and we don't need more of that. Like the NFL divas have had up until recently, when they kind of revealed the reality of what they're really about. And I know I'm using the same word way too many times in the same sentence, but it just had this spell over the American people in which it's trance-inducing. God doesn't want mindless followers. He wants us to examine our ways and to make that right choice over and over again, every single second of every day, because as C.S. Lewis wrote and said, every decision we make is bringing us closer, one step closer to hell, one step closer to heaven every single day. And the fake news takes advantage of that. It's like casting crown songs. One of the kind of contempo Christian songs that I really do appreciate. Download it. I shouldn't say download it, but you know what? I think I posted a clip online. It's a slow fade when you give your heart away. Black and white turn to gray. And that's always been the lie of Satan. He never corrupts us in a day. It's always a very slow fade. And that's what the fake news does, making implications, slowly just removing God from every story. Anytime someone credits God for being saved from an accident, that we can't, we'll just leave that part out. And they've done this a million times ever since 75 years ago when terrestrial broadcast came into its own in the United States, just putting us all under a kind of spell of commercialism whose true end is serving an advertised product for our salvation rather than our Savior and our Lord, whose birth we're about to celebrate at Christmas. And And so, well, what's the latest product, really? I mean, the hottest thing in the last 10 years has been technology. Technology sells very well on television because it's expensive. There's a lot of profit. It's always been that way, really. The car, the American kind of idolatry of the car, really came into its own as a result of television advertising. Got to have the Chevrolet, the Cadillac, the Chevy for the illegals, and it's tainted. It's tainted the way we think about everything. Even in church. So when we say seeker friendly, we're not really going after seekers. We're going after well, what's the iOS? What's the Macintosh legacy? What did they used to kind of call it when it first came out? It wasn't like the clunky Windows interfaces when you really had to know what you were doing with the computer. What do we say about the Macintosh GUI, graphic user interface, the Macintosh experience? It's compared to, the DOS code where you have to kind of type in all this cryptic stuff to get where you want to go. The Macintosh was what? User friendly. It's user friendly. So you see where I'm going with this by now, I'm sure. The seeker-friendly church. In the seeker-friendly church, you worship a God, and you train others to worship a God in the way that it's basically predicated on the lie that you get people in the door by presenting Jesus as something that he's not. In the example of the pastor who tells all of his, and again, it's not just that one pastor. It's so many pastors, so many churches. Their Bible introduction class or their church introduction class, nothing to do with the Bible. All about how the church, they spend 99% of the time on how that particular leader established that church, what the history of that particular church is. Generally about the leader of the church. It's not bad to talk about what God's done, but the focus is most definitely on how smart the leader is and how entrepreneurial the leader was. And entrepreneurism is great. It's just, this is church, and there's something sacred about church. This is why we have churches versus for-profit companies. Non-profits really supposed to be church entities. Liberals have turned it into something else. You have, in church, God's he's not the star. I mean, I guess you could say the North Star, but God is so much more than that, of course. So it's not the seeker-friendly church, because if you're really seeking Christ, you're going to want to read that Bible, and you're going to want to read the words and read all the words, and the word is as Jesus is called by himself in the Bible. If you by God, I'll say by God through the authors in the Bible, you're going to want to read that word. You're going to want to read that word, and you're not going to because you bring people in with a rock concert. They're going to expect, even though you're not saying that the Christian life is about going to Christian rock concerts. Yay, praising God! I am a friend of God. Great. But it really isn't, because you're training them. Do as you're told by the Pharisees, but don't do what they do. Don't follow in their footsteps, because they make disciples that are twice as fit for hell than they themselves are, is what Jesus told us. And I am paraphrasing. I trust that God will correct anything in your mind and mine if I'm misquoting in any way. Because we always want to be careful when we're referencing the Bible, as it is God's most holy word to us. So the seeker-friendly church is again taking a page out of technology, because Jesus doesn't say to be seeker-friendly. He says baptize in the name of the Father, the Son. Does he say baptize? Anyway, baptize all nations, make disciples of all nations. Not make audiences of all nations. Make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. And and make followers of Jesus Christ. Come, follow me. That's it. Just come, follow me. That's what Jesus says. And that's enough. That's enough. If you have to, if you feel like you're kind of being that in that kind of roundabout homosexual way, well, I will put on that little show for you. And if you have to use all kind of theatrics, put the penny in the box. Put the penny in the box. If you have to use all kind of theatrics, chances are, in fact, almost inevitably, you're doing something wrong as a leader. I mean, there's a time for rhetoric. There's a season for rhetoric. There's a season for technological rhetoric. And again, I express my constant regret that I have to come to you through this medium, on which I'm really not coming to you at all. I'm just this is a mockery. This is appropriation of human fellowship right now, and I can't emphasize that enough, because this is not real. I'm not really here. But you're so you and I are so dependent as a society in this industrialized society on this medium of communication, that if I'm trying to get you off of this, I'm trying to wean you from it. I'm trying to wean myself from it, and we're going to get off of it together. But the only way that we can, unfortunately, is by using this as kind of a jumping off point, and we want to get off of it as quickly as possible, because this is not real. This is not church. But again, I live among people who rape the hearts, minds, and souls of innocent boys and girls in classrooms, which is it's just a travesty. Because this is Boston wrong. It says Boston wrong. It's the hub of the universe. Check out Mass Resistance for all the evidence regarding that Fistgate. Just look into it. It's awful what we are doing as a culture. So the idea of seeker friendliness. Someone who's really seeking God doesn't need a gimmick. It's always good to have genuine fellowship. We need genuine fellowship. Excuse me once again. God prescribes genuine fellowship. We are the body of Christ, and iron sharpens iron, like hot, or another biblical metaphor, coals, like hot coals. They stay warm when they're together, but they grow cold when they're separated. And we're separated right now. And the fact that you're watching this video and not in a real church, and that I have to be here to communicate this in this way, is evidence of that. Do you get that? Are you getting that? Okay, good. So the seeker friendly church is really nothing more than if real seekers are Godward and are listening to that still soft voice the Bible talks about, which is God's voice, even the fingerprints of God within all of us that constantly direct us back to nature amid this assault of technology, which is trying to rob us of our time, our mind real estate, I call it, and the things that really matter, time spent with friends and family. Things that really matter, that real value, real growth in our lives. What is the seeker-friendly church? It's little more than an attempt to placate our technologically advertised kind of our brainwashed notions of user friendliness. Okay, so the seeker-friendly church is not a seeker-friendly church at all, because seekers don't need technological gimmicks. They don't need, you don't need to have a big social presence, which isn't really a social presence at all. This is not social. This is antisocial. Okay? This is the antisocial media that you're watching this on. And again, this is not, I'm trying to get you off of it, okay? Of the antisocial media, founded by the antisocial Mark Zuckerberg, for all intents and purposes, with a lot of help and a lot of appeals to base nature. How much of internet traffic, and sadly, how much of how many church men struggle with the use of pornography. It's antisocial. There's nothing. This whole gimmick of and I call it a gimmick because it's always in danger of that, and I think that might be kind. The antisocial media. It's not social media, and I know it's kind of a joke, a cliche, but it's very true. This is antisocial. This is media. Media is antisocial. It started with television, and this that you're watching this on, this is nothing more than a highly sophisticated television. That's all it is. It's not a smartphone. It's a dumb phone. It's a dumb phone because it makes you dumber. Okay? That said, it's very user-friendly. It's very user-friendly. See, if you were seeking the gospel, you wouldn't even be watching this video. You'd be pounding down the doors at your local church. And I'll tell you, I have been from here in the hub of the universe all the way to San Diego. That's where I had to go to find a Puritan church that still exists. Isn't that sad? Puritans sailed across the deep to found Massachusetts Bay Colony and this great United States of America. And they're building. Some of the buildings still exist, but they're inhabited by sodomites. Without mentioning names, because I know these people. They know me, and but they know who they are, and it's not necessary. Like that girl at Brookstone insisted on trying to force her lesbianism on me. It's like she knows who she is. I don't need to give you her name. It doesn't necessarily help if we try to be gentlemen here, but so. The seeker-friendly church is really nothing more than a user-friendly church, just nuanced a little bit, twisted a little bit, marketed a little bit differently for a religious audience, as so much religious media does, and it's really, I think it's sad, when religious media makers appropriate pop culture. It's like, we have nothing genuine to offer ourselves, is what you're saying when you make a rip-off show of Baywatch and you put a Christian twist on it. What the heck is the name of it? Young Ones, a television show. There's a Christian Netflix out there. I tried to, contribute kind of original and good stuff, and they're not. It's not really their thing. No bitterness there. No, I'm just kidding. I wish them real salvation. I do. But anyway, so the seeker-friendly church is really nothing more than a user-friendly church, and so when you're not attracting seekers by appealing to, and not only appealing to, but sustaining, because it's like once you get them in the door, does that mean you stop being seeker-friendly? You stop the rock concerts? No. Oh no. Oh no, you whet their taste for more rock music, and then you have to come up with lyrics that are even more dumber and more repetitive because, well, how else are you going to attract the other seekers? No. You're not attracting seekers into your seeker-friendly church. You're attracting users into your user-friendly church. I'm going to say that again, okay? Because if you're watching this, you probably go to a seeker-friendly church, like that emergent